our Detroit Lions news and rumors for you folks today. Lions are at minicamps. We're going to go ahead and talk a lot about that. Jared Goff gets disrespectful quarterback rating. Can't wait to talk about that one. Players whom the Detroit Lions could look to acquire when they get cut from their teams and more. But before we get into today's video, make sure you hit that like button. Let's get to 300 likes in this video. With your help, it absolutely can occur. Let's get into the first part of today's show and the disrespectful quarterback rating from PFF. Lions fans are reacting to this crazy ranking here where, first off, I want to know before we get into it, because I see the ranking, where do you have Jared Goff ranked of all the quarterbacks? Well, PFF here thinks that Jared Goff is the 16th ranked quarterback in the NFL. And yes, 16. Even though what we have seen in more top 5 stats in nearly every single category, top 10 for sure in every single category. You know, taking the team to the NFC Championship game, phenomenal year, yet 16 because it is a Detroit Lions quarterback. That is the reason why. And when we had Matthew Stafford, it was the same thing with the big media. Oh, he's just an average. He goes to LA. Now he's a top 3 quarterback. This is what happens when you have the legacy media. Says one of the fans says, imagine writing this and ranking Goff at 16. For as much as Goff is already efficient and structured quarterback, he took it even a higher level last season. And a lot of Lions fans ripping him up here. You got Tua, T-Law, Jordan Love, and Brock Purdy over Jared Goff. PFF making worst lists I've ever seen. My own eyes. What they do here, folks. How serious would it be for AR still a Green Bay quarterback? The JG disrespect, not mentioned. Yeah, it's ridiculous with some of these guys. And that's why I got a question for you. Where do you rank Lions quarterback Jared Goff? 1 through 32. 1 if you think he's the best quarterback in the NFL. 32 if you're a Packer fan. Let's go ahead and continue on and talk about the next one here. There is not many holdouts for the Detroit Lions. Nothing really going on because the Detroit Lions decided to pay their guys. And guess what? The rampant OTA holdouts are from other teams. And this is what happens when you don't pay your players. You've seen Brandon Ayuk skipping OTAs, Justin Jefferson, Cortland Sutton, CeeDee Lamb, T. Higgins. A lot of players are deciding not to go to OTAs because holding out for their contract. The Detroit Lions don't got to worry about that because we paid our guys. We paid Amon-Ra St. Brown a lot of money, and you know Justin Jefferson feeling that. You know CeeDee Lamb feeling that. We paid a quarterback. We paid our right tackle. We pay. And what happens when we pay? Players are happy. They show up to OTAs and to minicamp, and we don't have anything but to talk about the play on the practice field. And that's the way that it should be. If you don't pay your players, they're going to hold out. These players are holding out. Lions are focusing strictly on the work. Don't have to worry about any other notable no-shows or angries or upset contracts. It is just strictly talking Detroit Lions football. And that's, yeah, look, it's minicamp, and it's not the biggest thing in the world. But we don't have a distraction. We got football we talk about. We don't need to be talking about distractions, and that's a good thing. It really, really is. Let's go to the next article here. Should the Lions entertain a sneaky smart trade for Robert Woods? Seen all the videos on this one. Should the Lions look to get Robert Woods? Well, you could look to get Robert Woods. I wouldn't even try to trade for him. He may be a roster cut. And we're going to get into the next article on that one here because Robert Woods legitimately could be a 53-man roster cut. So why trade when you can get him for free? Even if you were to trade for him, it's going to be a day 3 pick, maybe a 6th or a 7th round pick. And look, him and Jared Goff absolutely do have history. There is a connection there. Same with the Josh Reynolds type of deal. They played together. He's actually not a bad wide receiver. Yeah, he's on the down end of his career, but to replace the Josh Reynolds amount, I think you can do 400 or 500 yards if they wanted to do that for next year. I think it's always smart to look for players to help bolster the roster, and Woods absolutely would bolster the wide receiver room. But I don't really need to trade for him. Don't need to trade for him. I believe the Houston Texans will cut Robert Woods. Then you get a player who's got a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, comes to Detroit. You don't have to give up no draft capital, probably a veteran minimum deal, and you got yourself a good wide receiver for basically nothing. Remember when we got Josh Reynolds is off the waiver wire? He immediately was good. So even if, say it's all through training camp and then he gets cut by the Houston Texans. We missed all that time at training camp with him. But he already has a connection with Jared Goff anyways. And we got a really great wide receiver core, so it wouldn't matter to slowly bring him on. That's why I advocate for no trade. But if he does get cut, take a flyer on him if he's willing to do that. So a question for you. Would you trade for Robert Woods? Why for yes and for no? Let's get the next one here going on here. Potential roster cuts Lions could target. And this is literally right after we just talked about Robert Woods, and he's one of the players on this list here. Don't really need to talk about that much. We just did. But I agree with him. Safety, Budda Baker. Now, this one's a really interesting one. Budda Baker's actually a really good safety for the Arizona Cardinals, one of the better safeties. Yeah, he's a little bit older longer in the tooth, a little bit older in his game. But, man, for a guy who, when he's on the field, is absolutely electric, if the Arizona Cardinals cut him, boy, you'd have to take a jumper. You'd have to take a flyer on him. Budda Baker is exactly a Dan Campbell type of guy. He's very physical. He likes to hit very hard. And he can deal with a lot of pain while playing. So this is exactly the type of player you'd want in this football team. I don't believe that the Lions would get Budda Baker because we already got the 4 safeties here, and we just got C.J. Moore back, just like this article says. And, all the players like Ufutu Melifonwu, Kirby Joseph, Brian Branch. But I tell you what, if he does get cut, the Lions should at least make a phone call. He may want a starter somewhere, but that'd be a good one. DJ Jones. You want to get better on the interior? You get a DJ Reed, you get a DJ Jones. You got Wingo as well, and Aleem McNeil. Look, you could absolutely do this if he gets released. You can put him on this defensive line. I don't think he would. It would be difficult for him to actually make the roster because we're actually pretty good now at the defensive tackle position. I guess they could do with another one. I don't know if they'd want to go with a player like Jones here, maybe a little bit over the money they want to spend because simply they already got the players. I don't even think Levi Onwuzurike is going to make the team. So, and then you got Joshua Pascal plays both parts, same with the John Kaminsky. So I don't really think they need a defensive tackle now, but you can always look. Patrick Jones, look, we can always add more pass rushers. We absolutely can do that. And if he gets released, take a flyer. I don't care. That's the one position I feel like it's a little bit thin for the Detroit Lions. It can bolster it, but again, maybe they're content with what they got. The Broderick Martin, he's helping out the interior. So maybe Joshua Pascal plays some little bit more edge and stuff like that. And obviously Davenport. So I like it. So let me know in the comment section, would you sign any of these guys if they get released? Put the name in the comments below. All right, folks. So this is the teams that are to overtake the Kansas City Chiefs. There are 4 teams that's predicted. And 3 teams predicted, and the Detroit Lions is one of them. First one here, obviously, the San Francisco 49ers. The reason you can say this is they're in the Super Bowl last year and they got a great team. And I honestly do think they're probably better overall of a football team than the Kansas City Chiefs from a roster standpoint. Doesn't necessarily mean they're the better team because Kansas City beat them. But totally get it. They got a stacked roster. They're a great team. Baltimore Ravens, 100%. Stacked roster, a great team. I actually think they got a better roster than the Kansas City Chiefs. With that said, they fold in the playoffs, and it doesn't really matter how much of a good team you have. If you fold in the playoffs, it means nothing. You got to win in the playoffs. And Patrick Mahomes went over there and beat them. And they had the superior roster, in my opinion. Just not getting it done. So I do see them for sure being on here. Maybe you'd have the Lions above them just because the Lions beat them last year. Then, of course, you got the Detroit Lions coming in at 3. Oh, there is 4 teams, sorry. Coming in at 3 here. And yes, I think the Lions absolutely could be Super Bowl champions. They're favorites in the NFC, them in San Francisco. The Lions beat them last year. And I do 100% believe the Lions would have beat them in the Super Bowl if they played them again because they are the superior roster. 100% agree. And the next team here, Cincinnati Bengals. Then they got the Philadelphia Eagles, the Buffalo Bills. Houston Texans should be way up there. I would put Houston up there way above 7. So there you go, folks. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Like the video. Let's get to, like I said, 300 likes. With that occurring, my channel can expand, and that would happen. With that said, folks,